how many at Harbor Park, but I would venture somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 people. I did not expect such a large crowd, and it was fantastic. So thank you for being part of that too. I also think that was very good for us, for the governor, to see how many people came out and how supportive people were to stand in the cold and wait for us to get there and to have that presentation there at Harbor Park. And so where we are at the state level, Virginia is the 15th and the last state to bring up state-sponsored passenger rail. Most of the states are engaged at the federal level on the high-speed rail issues. Virginia is doing that too, but we do believe that providing service to citizens that don't have passenger rail service, such as we've done today, also has to be a goal where we continue to work towards our federal projects and getting the higher speed rails as soon as we can and as soon as funding is available for us to continue moving forward. I mean, just to give you an example, this train came up in less than 3 years of being proposed by Norfolk Southern and only 2 years from the contract being signed with Norfolk Southern. So that's absolutely remarkable. Thank you, Norfolk Southern. And also, thank you, CSX. And I know a lot of people have asked me why we stopped passenger rail. But this is the first time that we've been able to go north because of our connection track to CSX. So also, thank you to CSX to work with us, work with Norfolk Southern, and to be able to get that connection track in place so that you're not going to Cincinnati, Ohio right now, you're going to Washington, D.C., and we know that's a much more popular corridor for the citizens of Hampton Roads. Where we are right now, the most critical thing for me is that we get a dedicated revenue source for passenger rail operation. People have been surprised on this trip yesterday and today to learn that Virginia does not currently subsidize passenger rail. Our fare box not only covers the cost of the service, but it actually puts money in the bank. But all of that changes October 1st unless Congress, and maybe Chris can help us with this, but unless Congress decides to delay the implementation of the new formulas October 1st, we're going to need to have money on an annual basis to not only run this train and the Lynchburg train, but to run 4 Amtrak regional trains, 2 out of Newport News and 2 out of Richmond, which will be required to take over on October the 1st of 13. So we're preparing for that. Major goals for passenger rail, state-sponsored in Virginia right now, are to bring up trains 2 and 3 out of Norfolk. We've already purchased those time slots, those train slots from Norfolk Southern. We have not purchased 2 and 3 from CSX yet, and those will be our next improvements in the 95 rail corridor to allow those passenger trains also to come up. So what's critical for us is that we be able to show the ridership and the demand out of Norfolk so that we can make the investments into trains 2 and 3. Our second thing behind that would be going to Roanoke, Virginia from Lynchburg and extending that service down. We actually have 4 federal projects. First one I'll talk to you about is Richmond Main Street Station to Norfolk, the high-speed rail corridor that was we were in the midst of when Norfolk Southern made their offer to us. I expect by the end of this week, by Friday, to be able to announce that the federal government has signed our record of decision so that we will have a high-speed rail corridor and a federally designated corridor into Norfolk. So that's a real achievement. I can't tell you it's done yet, but we're within days, and our hope is that it's done by Friday. So very good news. So that will put us, we'll have our Tier 1, our first environmental level. Now we don't have any funding to move it to Tier 2. So, but we'll have the record of decision. That doesn't go away. So that's been our goal all along, to get the record of decision so we can be considered a federally designated route into Hampton Roads. The next one is Main Street Station into DC, which is a study to take us to the Tier 2 environmental level. Once we receive that designation, then we are ready to start construction. We're in the very early stages of that. We have $44 million of federal money. It's a $55 million project, so there is match both from the Commonwealth and CSX stepped up to help us with the funding that we need for that. And it's to do the study for third tracking in that corridor so that we're completely third tracked from DC into the Richmond area. Now, we will not third track Ashland, we will not third track Fredericksburg. So, you know, it's when we say third track, it's not absolutely everything. We think that study will take 8 years unless something's done at the federal level to reduce the time and the requirements on that. And the next one is Richmond Main Street Station to Raleigh, North Carolina. They will have their Tier 2 designation sometime this summer. And then, again, no federal construction dollars right now to start that project, but all the studies will be in place. And then the good news for us is we do have $75 million in ERA funds. We just had that done. What are you trying to tell us?
This is where the $75 million is going to start going. On the corner that we're on right now.
No. The $75 million is 11 miles of federal dollars that goes into doing third track, which this train will go over today, that area. I mean, all of our freight and passengers in the Northern Virginia area will use that third track. Yeah, this train will go through that area. It's a choke point today. But it's third tracking to help relieve that choke point for both our freight and our passenger service. So that we got that before the end of September, so we are working on that as well. So those are our 4 federal projects and where we are at a state level. But again, most important thing is that we get the funding in place with a dedicated revenue source so that we know we can continue to run the trains we have today, so that we continue to make investments into additional passenger rail in Virginia, because we can't be spending money and then find out we have no revenue source. We can't shut any trains down. That's a key goal of Virginia, that we continue to run the service we have today. The proposed revenue source is what's being discussed by the General Assembly right now, and in this year's General Assembly. One of the issues in Virginia is that rail is the only mode that is not part of the Transportation Trust Fund. It does not get any formula from that because we did not have passenger rail in Virginia until 2009, and those are very old formulas. The governor recognizes it, the secretary does, and the members of the assembly that this is an issue we have to address, and we have to address very quickly. So I think public opinion is on our side from all of you, as well as from the members of our General Assembly and the administration. So that's the good news. So we don't know yet what's being proposed by the Assembly and the governor, but we do know that rail and transit are being discussed as well as highways. So I think something's going to happen this year, at least in the rail component. So I guess I'm turning this back over to Todd with Amtrak. Shall we do that? Hold on, here's Todd.
Good morning. How's everybody doing on the first revenue run out of Norfolk?